Are we live now?
Yeah, I think we're live and talking over the intro. The intro is now playing. There's the 30-second delay. But hello, everybody. I'm in the intro. Look at the MathPig. I'm on fire. Yeah, and now we're live and everybody should be able to see us. So, yeah, everybody, thanks very much for coming back. Appreciate you appearing. Rory, put them step ladders down. I don't know what you're doing. Dry and Carlton, thanks again for tonight's discussion. I think that was my record that I didn't talk for the longest I could talk. I think I did really well there. I was very proud of myself. But we've got Dry for a certain amount of time. He's limited more so than Carlton is. So if we want to try and focus it on Dry and give him a wee bit of attention, let him say what he needs to say, and we'll come back and forth from that if we can do that. If that's cool.
All right.
Dry, if you want to go on ahead, if you're actually there.
Yeah, I mean, whatever anybody wants to talk about, I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, well, Carlton, if you've got a question or two there, that's something that maybe you didn't get a hit the nail on the head before we finished.
I don't think I do. Most of the questions I do have would actually require like another few hours or so. So no.
Well, feel free to
Right.
tempt us. Free to tempt us, man. You know, give us a teaser. Head us in the right direction so we can line up another debate.
Yeah, if you've got one that I really didn't address well, or several or whatever, I mean, I can always make a video. I mean, I don't know if that do you want to spend time watching it, but anyways, I'm always open for further discussion. Is my point.
Peter, have you any questions if you'd like to throw in Dry's direction?
Yeah, so I missed pretty much the start of the stream because I was doing something completely different. I was interrupting MathPig because I wanted to make an intro.
Yeah, I know. Like, man, text me in and
So
out.
I bugged him for a lot. So just to get up to speed, Dry Apologist, can I ask you what you believe and what kind of denomination you fall into?
Yeah, I'm Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Rory is also Roman Catholic.
Okay. And so
Well,
Carlton, you're the atheist, and MathPig, you're in between.
I'm agnostic. Carlton is atheist. We've got two Catholics, and then I'm not sure in your stance yet because that's the interview coming up at the end of the month.
Okay.
It's fine. We'll just
So
make this video unlisted. It's all right. Nobody will watch
I
it.
need I need to keep that a secret.
No, I'm only joking. Go on ahead.
Okay.
That's my Irish humour, man. If you don't get that by this end of this episode, you'll not be prepared for the interview.
Okay. So yeah, so I got so many questions that would fill an entire show. But my main question to you, Dry Apologist, would be what's your reason for believing?
Yeah, so I would say that the fundamental reasons, and obviously there can be a collection of reasons, but I would say that an argument like the argument from Contingency, I know it doesn't convince everybody, but I find it a convincing philosophical reason to believe in God. And then my argument for reason for Christianity would just be that I find Jesus to be a compelling moral figure and spiritual figure that to me seems to go beyond merely human. Now, again, that's kind of an intuition, but that would be my reason for Christianity. And then I see the Catholic Church as carrying forward Jesus's theology most fully of the Christian denominations.
Okay, and did you grow up as a Christian, or did you convert later in life?
Yeah, I was raised Catholic.
Ah, okay. So would it then be fair to say that the argument from Contingency wasn't quite the reason why you are a believer? It maybe just later on confirmed what you already
Right.
believed.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, being raised, I wasn't taught the argument from contingency when I was a infant and so on. Um, but yeah, the more I've studied things, I've really, I've looked into and I've considered, you know, disbanding my faith. I always, reanalyze these questions. But yeah, I continue to find the argument from contingency to be convincing. But I'd like to think I'm open to being convinced. Otherwise, but I'm still convinced by my beliefs the more I look into it.
Okay,
Well, Apologist. Sorry if I can butt in here quickly.
no worries.
I wasn't born a Catholic. In fact, growing up, my parents never took me to church. The only real time I learned about religion was when I went to school. But I converted to Catholicism basically for the sake of my children. So, I mean, I'm very interested in some of the things you have to say, because, I had to take that all in at an older age, but I've never really heard somebody, well, apart from my wife, who was a Catholic before she was born, as they say, never really heard it from, someone like you. So I'm very interested.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you ever want to set up a discussion, Roy, I'd be happy to talk to you, one-on-one. But yeah, any questions you have.
I'll pass on your details to him, Dry, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
If you could pass those on to me as well, I'd be honored to have you on our show to have a more extended talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Remind me to do that. So, yeah, this is a crack of an after party. 8 minutes in, we're out of questions.
Yeah. So what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I would be interested in is have you ever questioned your beliefs, or did you only go out to confirm those?
Oh, sorry. MathPig's all right.
MathPig, you can't breathe and drink at the same time.
Sorry, it's fine. It's fine. I muted myself.
It's intelligent designed. That doesn't work.
It's okay. You could hear me, but hopefully the chat and the live people couldn't hear me, so it's all right.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry. In answer to your question, if I ever questioned my beliefs, yeah, I mean all the time, honestly, and that's yeah, I mean I question them all the time. I mean I'm constantly trying to reevaluate, the plausibility of my beliefs, and I try to analyze others, and I recognize not everybody's going to come to the same conclusion. So somebody could say, well, wow, his arguments are terrible. What does he mean? But we have different intuitions, and how we arrive at those is somewhat mysterious. So, but yeah, I mean, I find the reasons that I believe to be compelling, but I constantly, hold them under examination.
Okay, so yeah, well, I'd have a slightly different opinion about that. I think I might be mirroring Arn Ra in all of this. Your intuition or your opinion, I don't think doesn't matter when it comes to questioning certain things. It is what you can demonstrate to be true.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would argue that that's an intuition as well. I mean, if you use demonstrate, if by that you mean like empirically demonstrate, I would just question that as a starting point. Certainly, some things need to be empirically demonstrated, but I don't think everything does. So, if a logical argument can be given for something that it's more compelling and plausible than not, then I think that its conclusion should be accepted, or at least it's justified. You can be justified in accepting.
Can you give me an example of something you think doesn't need to be demonstrated?
Well, like for example, I mean, just foundational claims like cogito ergo sum, and I know some will contest and say, well, that is an empirical claim, but I would argue it's not. So like you can't you'd have to exist in order to doubt your own existence. To me, that's a logical argument, and it's very obviously true. So that's a logical proof that, I must exist. So that would be an example. And then, I would say like the argument from contingency, if that's sound, that's another example.
I don't get the first one. So is that addressing hard solipsism?
Well, I mean, if somebody was saying, maybe I don't exist, like maybe my consciousness doesn't exist, you would say, well, hey, you can't doubt your own existence unless you already exist. That would be a contradiction. So that would be an argument. It wouldn't prove that other minds exist or other things exist, but it would prove that, you exist. At least the person framing the argument exists. So it would prove to myself that I exist. It wouldn't prove that you exist to me, but if you were to pose it to yourself, it would prove to yourself that you exist. So like if you've read like Descartes, that's where he goes with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I would argue whether or not we exist. I think we are confronted with reality that we find ourselves in, and whether or not we're a brain in a vat, our reality is still the only reality we're in, and the only one we have to deal with. So, to me, that's pretty much a non-argument.
Well, the argument though is
because
that you exist, though. So you could be a brain in a vat. You would be an existing brain in a vat.
I could be in a matrix. I could be
Sure.
be a computer program for all I know. That it still means that I need to deal with the reality that I'm a part of, which is the reality that I can get independent confirmation from others if we're in the same reality.
Right. The argument wouldn't prove the nature of the external world, but it would prove, if it's accepted, it would prove that there is some sort of internal, some sort of conscious existence that you would call you. Now, you could be that you're in the matrix. It could be that you're a brain in a vat, although I would argue against those things. But it would prove that you do exist as a brain in a vat. You do exist in the matrix. There's some conscious identity that exists, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So apart from that, I'm still a little bit at a loss as to what you think we don't need to prove empirically or with independent verification that it's actually real.
Well, I would say it's not that there are things that are necessarily waiting that we need to prove that they exist, but in principle, I think we can prove things, using logic. Now, maybe all the logical arguments fail, but I don't think in principle that it's impossible. But like, to me, appealing to probability, for example, that's an intuition. Like if something seems like it's highly probable, then I should accept it. But why? Well, that's just an intuitional starting point that I think that all of us share, and it's a plausible one, but it's an intuition nonetheless. So by intuition, I just mean your epistemic starting point.
Well, it also sounds like, sorry if I cut you off, Peter.
No. Go ahead. I don't want to hog the conversation anyway.
Go on ahead, Carlton. No, go on ahead.
Yeah, well, with the intuition thing and all, the way you're describing it, Dry, it almost kind of sounds synonymous with incredulity. Like you personally believe this thing to be the case, so therefore you've convinced yourself that it is the case.
Well, that's my starting point. It's like it's the framework of plausibility. So I mean, if you're going to take anything that you believe to be the case, and I would say everybody has some set of beliefs, then that is, you can ask, well, why? And eventually you're going to get to some bedrock where you're going to say, look, this is my starting point. And I think everybody does that, and that it's legitimate.
Sure, but people tend to also change those starting points, right?
Yeah,
Like they can take into consideration other things that, like, oh, okay, I started at a wrong place, so now I have this new information that'll give me something else.
yeah, definitely you can. And if somebody, but you would need a good reason to change that
Sure.
starting point, do you think?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm coming from as well. But like, I would need a really good reason to start doubting the law of non-contradiction, for example. And I think that that good reason is going to presuppose the law of non-contradiction. But, you know, I'm open to being convinced, but until somebody can replace my epistemic foundation with a more plausible seeming one, then I'm going to stay with, what seems most plausible. So, I mean, that's really what I'm arguing. I try to go with what seems most plausible, and I think everybody should try to do that, even though we may reach different conclusions.
That's where I have a problem, because you can be convinced of something being the most plausible. That doesn't automatically mean that it is probable or even possible.
It doesn't mean it, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the most plausible option. I think that, if we're going to say that, we're going to hold a belief, I would hope that the belief would be based on what's most plausible and not based on something implausible. So, something seems like it's the most reasonable option. I think I'm justified in accepting it.
What I'm trying to say is that, for instance, I could be convinced that the most plausible explanation for the universe is universe farting pixies, because they have only one task: they fart universes. That's where our universe comes from.
Strange you say
the
pixies.
simplest
Carlton
solution.
likes his furries. Carlton's more of a fan of furries than pixies. I don't know which one's more higher up in the hierarchy, but
yeah, I don't know either. But
no, you missed that. You missed that bit, man.
Fairies,
Sorry.
in my opinion.
But that doesn't mean that it is possible or even probable.
Right.
You
Well, I
you
would want to know. Yeah, I'd want to know why you would hold that belief.
Well, I didn't say I hold that belief. I said I could be convinced by someone that that's the most plausible option, given certain arguments. That tells me nothing about whether it's even possible.
Right. So, I mean, I hold that if something is conceivable, it's possible, unless you can give some undercutting defeater. So, I mean, your suggestion of fairies, I mean, if you truly found that to be plausible, the most plausible option, then you should embrace that option if it really is the most plausible. Assuming I don't come up with any argument for that.
I generally go with a dancing purple hippo, because I actually found a GIF that's 1.5 minutes long of a dancing purple hippo in a sumo outfit. I have more evidence for that existing. That's generally my joke if I was going to go down that route. Not to say it's a joke or to put you down dry or anything like that, but some people say furries and things like that. I've more physical. I have a video of a dancing purple unicorn or a dancing purple hippo I keep in the garage. He wears a sumo suit. I think that's the point that's trying to be put across. I don't mean to beat around, I'm just trying to get to the point, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you have a video of something fake, but go ahead.
Yeah, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
I still have a problem with the fact that you said that if you can be convinced that it's the most plausible, it automatically becomes possible. And I don't think that that's the case.
Well, right. If it's the most plausible option, I'm arguing then you're justified in accepting it. You should go with what seems to be the most plausible. It could be impossible, but until an argument comes along to convince me that it's impossible, why would I embrace that conclusion? And by the way, I mean, I hold this same standard to Christians and theists when they make implausible arguments, or what appear to be implausible arguments to me. So that's my starting point. If something seems to be the most plausible, all things being equal, that's the option I'm going to embrace. I don't know why somebody wouldn't embrace. Yeah, it could be impossible, but why would I jump to the conclusion that it's impossible without any reason to think it?
Why would you jump to the conclusion that it's possible?
Because if it seems conceivable and there's no logical contradiction or any undercutting defeater, then that's a good reason to think it's possible.
Have you read Harry Potter?
Yeah, and Harry Potter is possible, as in metaphysically possible. It's not physically probable, given what we know about the physical world, but that's jumping between metaphysically possible and physically probable. And I think those are two different senses.
Dry, how would you be oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Now
Carlton.
you've lost me.
Go on ahead, Carlton. You ask your question.
Yeah, Dry, how would you be able to determine if something is more possible than another thing? What was your measurement for that?
I don't think something can come in degrees of possibility. I think it's either possible or impossible. You could determine whether something is more probable than another thing. Like you could say, like evolution is more probable than creationism, but and that would, often be done through empirical methods. But I would say also assuming, that probability tells us something about the material world and so on. But possibility, though, to me, that's just, is it logically possible or not? And to me, that's just based on conceivability.
What do you mean?
Oh,
go ahead, Peter.
go ahead, Carlton.
Well,
it seems it's.
Go on ahead, Carlton. Carlton, you go. Carlton.
You go ahead.
Carlton, go. It's your show, Carlton.
You go.
Carlton.
Yeah. When it comes to conceivability, do you mean that what we could believe or think to be the case?
Yeah, what you imagine but there has a contradiction. Like a married bachelor is not conceivable. There's no possible world.
Can I just interrupt on that married bachelor? We know what a married person is. We also know what a bachelor is. If you took somebody and made them walk into a city that was abandoned and had no idea where a city came from, they would think that God's just made it appear out of nowhere. It's the fact that we know what a bachelor is, the fact that we know married, that makes it a contradiction. If we didn't know what them words meant, you walked into a different country, a different world, and spoke to an alien and explained that to them, they wouldn't know. It's purely because of what we know already that a married bachelor is a contradiction. Only because everybody knows what a bachelor is, and everybody knows that you can't. It's sorry, that was just my 2 cents. It annoyed me earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt because it was your show. But we're in the after party now, and clearly with the coughing, I've had a smoke, so I'm going to interrupt. And that was just my 2 cents. Go on ahead.
Yeah, sure. We need to know what the terms are, but then when you there's also a difference between a word and a concept. So,
but you could also say that 1 + 1 = 3. And we know that that's wrong. Same as the fact that we know what no, but I know, but just making a very simple analogy. 1 + 1 = 3 because we know that that's wrong because of what we've been taught, and a married bachelor is wrong because we know of that because of what we've been taught. That's.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's more than just what we've been taught. It's because we've been taught that, and we have an apprehension that there's a logical contradiction or mathematical contradiction with those items, so we can rule them out as being possible. They're impossible.
Okay, I'm going to step back now. Go on ahead.
I don't see what's controversial about that, but I know everything's controversial at some level, but...
Oh no, I'm just not smart enough to continue the conversation, so I'm going to lean back over again towards the other two.
Okay.
Carlton, or Peter, do you want to say what you were going to say whenever Carlton had his question?
Yeah. So, I still, and correct me if I'm wrong, dry apologist, but I'm still thinking that you have a belief, and you need to be convinced that it is not true, instead of being convinced that it is true before you believe it is. Am I correct?
Well, not necessarily, because I could, for example, like say somebody presents me with like the argument from contingency, for example, and I could say, well, that sounds really plausible. That convinces me, like my mind is convinced by that. But then say somebody comes along, like Carlton or somebody, and says, well, no, that argument fails, and this is why. I could then say, wow, you're right. I thought it was plausible. Now it's not. So I'm going with what's most plausible. Um, so I'm letting plausibility be my guide. Now I may want my faith to be true, but I still set out to say, is this reasonable? Does this hold water? Is it plausible? And if it's shown to be, if it can be shown to be implausible, then I will change my mind about that. But plausibility is still my guide. And it's still based on arguments. It's still based on, okay, this is the reason why I find it plausible. These are reasons against it. Are those reasons stronger than the reasons that I hold? And if, the scale tips in favor of, that my reasons for believing are stronger, then I'm going to keep believing. And if vice versa, then I would not believe. And I imagine that's how everybody operates.
Well, you know what,
Um,
Apologist, there's recent studies about what makes a genius, and they tend to
a
obviously have
cowboy hat.
high IQ and everything, but they tend to push the boundaries a lot, and they tend not to have many friends. They're in a small little clique. I mean, maybe like we are, but who knows? But they're the ones who actually push the boundaries and find out something new in science or whatever. And I think that's very similar to what you were just saying.
Sorry, what was that last part?
I just said I think that's very similar to what you were just saying about beliefs. And I think it's the same in science with real geniuses like Isaac Newton, for instance.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I hope that, my framework here, or at least what I think is my guide, is not coming across like it's, being closed to new beliefs. I mean, I try to test all my beliefs, but at the end of the day, some people I've spoken to, maybe that's some of the people here, are fine with sitting on the fence and saying, look, I'm not going to commit myself to a set of beliefs. I'm going to commit myself to a worldview at the end of the day. And I'm going to go with the worldview that seems most plausible, that makes the most sense out of reality to me. I recognize not everybody may agree with me, but it's still what I'm going to do at the end of the day.
I do have to say, just from my own personal point of view, the reason that I am agnostic and not atheist is because of personal testimony, because of things that I've experienced that's left me, sort of on the fence. So I can see where Dry's coming from in certain things. When evidence becomes personal to one, and when you can see things from one side of view, I can get that, and I have experienced things that one could say is supernatural from a point of view, another could say shit we don't understand yet, and that's why I sit on the fence.
Right. It can be subjective to a degree. Somebody can be, it's based on background knowledge and psychological factors that I could be deluding myself. I mean, that's possible. I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to say, look, this seems correct to me, and I'm going to go with that until I'm convinced out of it. So.
If it's possible, wouldn't you want to know if it's actually the case?
I definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, MathPig.
No. I was just agreeing with you, man. I said basically the exact same thing. I definitely would want to know if there was somebody out there, or somebody that just started it and went off for a shite and forgot to come back, just realised and popped back in for 2 minutes just to go, oh hi, I made everything, and would have the evidence and the need to convince me, because he would know. Obviously, I can't tell you, but he would know, and he would pop in, do that, and then leave again and go play tennis or something. That. That's fine with me. I would just like to know.
Yeah, the reason that I'm asking, and I don't think MathPig, you might have caught it at some point. I've mentioned it in a couple of our shows. I had my own experience where I actually met aliens, and I was 100% convinced that I met aliens. I lost an entire day. I have no recollection of that day apart from just a few shards.
And asking the obvious question, you
And
weren't drinking or taking anything beforehand.
sorry?
Asking the very obvious question before this happened, that you lost a day, everything was normal and fine. It's not like, you woke up on Monday morning and took a bag of shrooms and then you lost a day. There was nothing to
No.
affect you. That's what I mean.
It happened while I was working. I was driving a truck from Holland to a village near Basel in Switzerland. And I know where it started. It started 70 kilometers past the city of Cologne. There's a small restaurant at the German Autobahn where I used to drink a cup of coffee because of the driving times that you need to observe. And the moment that I got back in the truck, that's where it started. While I was driving, I saw someone appear next to me in the truck, and from the moment I recall that happening, I pretty much lost everything. So I drove from Cologne to Basel with no recollection. I spent the night in a hotel with no recollection, and I drove back, and I only regained conscience when I came up to the city of Heidelberg, which probably prompted me because that used to be my second hometown. We used to go there on vacation. I got a lot of friends there. It's basically my second hometown.
Yeah.
I never knew what actually happened until years later when I had a partner who, for completely different reasons, had to see a psychiatrist. And at some point, I mentioned this to the psychiatrist because she had mentioned that she saw colors when she was completely stressed. And then I mentioned what happened to me, and he had a perfectly good explanation for this. He started asking a few questions about my private life at the time and could pretty much tell me what my life was like at the time. And so what happened was that I didn't see any aliens. What I saw wasn't real. It was my brain creating a pleasant atmosphere, because at the time I was heavily into aliens. It was on Discovery, all kinds of series. You had the were the gods aliens stuff.
Yeah.
So and that's where that all came from. None of it was real. My brain just shut off because of the stress and showed me some pretty pictures that I wanted to see at the time.
You see, that's what
Well,
I'm saying.
So
sorry, Rory, just if I can say this before
But-
you jump in. You see, that's what I'm saying, man. Just in the
Go ahead.
short version, is as I said at the start, some people could explain as supernatural, and others could explain as shit I don't understand yet. You've got to that point where you understand it. Not to go into the details of my story, but I just haven't got to that point yet. But it's definitely open. I think that it's more probable that it's shit I don't understand than it is such and such or this, that, and the other. And don't get me wrong, I've mentioned before, Carlton probably hasn't seen. I know for sure you haven't. Rory has, Try hasn't, but I've said that my family believes that they come from a family of witches, and they are in tune with that other side and premonitions and things like that there and all. Like, it is prominent in my mother's side of the family, so there is an awful of that in my, where I come from and ingrained in me from the get-go. And that's what I mean, so it's definitely possible that that's because it's there, that's the obvious route that I would go. But I'm definitely open to the fact that,
well,
there's subconsciously this happened, or
the
this happened, or
reason
this happened.
the reason that I mentioned it is because it scared the hell out of me what happened that day. The fact that I lost memory of an entire day scared me, and I never told anyone. The only one who knew was my girlfriend at the time, and it was literally 6, 7 years later when I decided I'm going to ask this guy if he has an explanation for what happened, because now I'm at a point where I think, well, I don't think it's really that plausible. If aliens would visit Earth, I'd be the last one they got to, because I'm a nobody.
Yeah, but just
Could
speaking
I-
of aliens,
And that's
Could I just say,
go
And
ahead,
that's-
Rory.
I find
Go ahead, Rory.
I find that fascinating because my sister-in-law in New York absolutely swears that she was abducted by aliens, and from what you've been saying, it's just like her story. She can't remember anything about it. She lost time, but she definitely had that feeling.
It's possible. Oftentimes, it's also with sleep paralysis comes in a lot. It's where
Yeah, when you don't
people
sleep and you're a
meet
lorry driver.
aliens. Some meet demons. Some meet Jesus. In that case, it can be explained by sleep paralysis. So there are a lot of really down to earth and scientific explanations for things that we can experience, and we can have an experience that is completely different from what is reality.
Well, yeah, that's
The reason I mentioned
No, let
yeah
Peter
the
finish.
reason
Let
I
Peter
mentioned
finish.
it is because this was so weird, and I wanted to know. I just wanted to know, is what I experienced really what I experienced? Because
But it goes back to what we were saying about impossibility. I mean, most people would say, "Oh no, that's completely impossible." But hey, it might not be.
well, I don't think it's completely impossible. I don't think we're alone in the universe, and I don't think that it's completely impossible for other beings to visit Earth. I think that's a really plausible explanation.
See,
But
also you have to
given the
take into
fact
account,
that I'm a complete nobody, they wouldn't visit me.
and you have to
They
take
would
into account
visit
as
a
well.
world leader. They would try to establish contact. They're not going after a guy who basically looks like a redneck placed in the wrong country.
They'll definitely visit you with
It
that.
doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
So
Man, if
I
you
gotta
s- if
go
you
in
s-
just a minute, but I just want to throw in this one thing. So I think that you're appealing to a plausibility framework there. You're saying you had that experience, but it seems less plausible that aliens would abduct you. And to me, that's kind of like what I'm getting at. Like you examine all things considered. Like it's like, okay, you have that experience, but is it most plausible? And I think, anyways, that just resonated with me. But
Well, that was kind of my
Well,
point.
I was convinced I saw the beings. I actually saw the beings. Those are the parts that I still remember. I can describe them to this day.
right.
And so for me, it was as real as well. The only one on camera here is Carlton. So to me, it was as real as seeing him sitting there moving around with his headphones on. It was literally that real.
That's exactly what my sister-in-law.
So and so if it comes to being convinced, if you can actually see it, there's not a lot more you need.
Right, but you're
to
still not
become convinced.
convinced, it sounds like.
I wanted to know if it was actually real, because it would be a surreal experience. It is something out of the ordinary. Not everyone meets aliens. I know there are a lot of people who claim they have, but it's not an everyday experience. And so when it comes to, like Hitchens said, an extraordinary claim needs extraordinary evidence. So to me, I think me seeing that, I don't have any confirmation from anyone else that what I saw was actually there. And we know people can hallucinate.
Right.
So
Well,
Right. So to me, that's appealing to a plausibility framework. But anyways, I gotta go. But I enjoyed the discussion. I'm interested in talking to you
Dry,
guys some
thank you
more.
very
But I
much
gotta
for
go.
coming. Dry,
well,
appreciate you coming.
quickly,
Oh,
try,
sure.
apologist, quickly before you
Very
leave.
quickly, Roy. Very, very quickly.
I was going to say, my sister lives in Lower Manhattan and has for years, and she actually saw the Twin Towers come down, and she was on her balcony, and she couldn't believe what she saw, and she actually thought, no, this can't be happening, until the smoke arrived.
Right. So.
Thanks again, Dry. I really
All right.
appreciate it.
Just a
And,
thought.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll
Yeah. Everything has to be interpreted in light of everything else, I think. But all right,
I'll
gonna
pass
go
your
now.
information back and forth. You can email, you can chat, and all Dry's Apologist links are in the bottom. Dry again. Thanks very much, and you can see us after the door.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks Carlton,
Yep.
MathPig, Peter, Roy. Thanks. See ya.
You too.
okay.
Carlton, back to you. Your thoughts on tonight?
Well, yeah, I think it was interesting. There were, at least with this after show, there were a few things that Dry Apologist sort of confirmed what I thought, which seems to be that previous experiences that he had, it looks like he's looking for things that confirm those previous beliefs that he has.
Yeah.
So that could be, at least that's a plausible, just to use his wording there, a plausible aspect to why he may believe. I'm not entirely sure why he's convinced of certain arguments arriving to those beliefs, but I get a better picture of why he may be convinced of those beliefs.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point. It was to provide a platform that you could have a chat, get to know each other a wee bit better, and that was the whole idea. I've interviewed you, and I've interviewed Dry. If anyone wants to see the links for them in the description, and yeah, we can all chat and get to know each other, and people have a bit of context. They can see where people are coming from, and yeah, I think it went well. We ended, as I say earlier, we ended when it needed to, and we came to the. Yeah, I'm happy with tonight. Good. I think this went well for my first discussion debate where I had to actually sit and fucking be quiet.
No, it went well, MathPig. No, you did well. Congratulations.
How did that work for you, MathPig?
Peter, was that you?
Yeah, I said, how did that work for you, sitting back and being quiet?
Well, one particular night.
I'm asking because I pretty much run a similar show, and yeah, at some point it's
fucking
very
kills me.
would, for me at least, be very difficult
fucking
to stay
me,
quiet.
It
because
fucking. Why do you think I started my YouTube channel? I couldn't text, fast enough. I couldn't say these things fast enough. It fucking kills me. No. There was one particular night we were having an after party, and I think I had drank possibly a bottle and a half of wine, and Richard Madsen, if you've seen him in the chat, very good friend of both of ours, is Be Mindful, and they took an average over 5 minutes, 6 minutes or something, and it was every 93 seconds I was interrupting everybody. I could not hold myself back. It's very difficult sometimes.
I still think we need Carlton to play a tune.
We have Richard Madsen in the chat. Richard's my online boyfriend. Welcome, Richard. Co-host.
Peace and respect to you all.
Richard, you're very quiet. You need to turn your gain up about another 40%.
Okay, how's that? Tell me when to stop.
Keep going.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Keep going.
Keep going.
9, 10,
Keep going.
11, 12, 13, 14,
All right.
15.
Yeah.
It's good?
15.
It's good.
Yeah, now we're getting there.
Okay. I'll turn it up a little bit more. Yeah, I was listening to the conversation. Really appreciate everyone's honesty, and these things are not necessarily easy to talk about.
Just on the topic of what Peter was talking about, I'm not going to degrade everything that Richard's stance is to one thing, but I can just say aliens, and anyone who knows what I'm talking about with Richard understands the depth, but I definitely don't want to come across as derogatory, but Peter and Richard could have a very interesting conversation, I think.
Yes, I think we could. Indeed.
Yeah, I know.
Well, let's kick it off. What do you think? Is everyone too tired? Come on.
Well,
Are we men here or what?
I do have to leave at 9:30.
I'm so by the sound of your voice, you're American?
Yes, I'm very American.
Ah, okay. So
Richard,
that would explain
just to say,
why you
Richard,
can just call out everyone in Europe who for whom it's if for me it's 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
Oh, we're just getting started though, yeah?
in saying that, Richard, Richard, it is half two.
Half
Here.
past 2 where I am.
Well, it's half
Yeah.
2 here, and I have to go to bed at 4. So you've got an hour and a half.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, well,
I'm
we'll try to
open.
talk
I'm
about
open
as
to
much as
any
possible.
conversation.
Well, Carlton does have to go in about another 3 minutes. So if we can just dedicate the last 3 minutes to the man of the hour, who decided to have and help me out with my first discussion debate on the channel, which I think went well. And yeah, you know, a lot of love to. Without the people who come on this channel, it wouldn't be this channel, because
Yeah,
I
that's true.
can't. You know, I'm a chatty person, but
Yeah,
I can't talk
Carlton-
if it's just me.
Carlton, do you have a channel?
I do.
I link you up, man. It's got one video.
Okay.
It's the
I'll
hardest. fucking
I'll need a
channel.
link.
Yeah, it's in the description. It's the hardest channel in the world to find because he's one video, and he only makes one video every 6 months because he spends so much time producing it himself, making all his music himself, walking around forests to take pictures himself. They're fantastic.
Yeah, see, I've done that doing some of my artwork. I've been lazy as well, but I'm going to get back this year with a couple of good shows. Tomorrow we'll have Jesus. I mean, and then maybe next week we'll have God's wife on.
Yeah, well, for a long time, my
It's going to be
biggest
exciting.
video. Yeah, the biggest.
Would that be the angel Gabriel?
No.
Terrible.
I don't know who God's
Look,
wife
right.
is.
Carlton has to leave in 1 minute.
God's
Carlton, is there any-
God's wife seems to be an older man living in South Africa.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
ask me how this works. Don't ask me how this works, but he calls himself my mother.
Okay, take a deep breath,
So,
and we're going to give
there.
Carlton. Do you know what we're going to give Carlton. There you are. Solo layout, Carlton. Okay. Is there anything you want to say before you leave? The screen
No,
is
I-
yours. No.
Well, I do
Alright,
thank
well,
you
then
for
I'll just
having
kick
me
you out.
on.
Fuck that. Then I'll just kick you out. No, appreciate Carlton coming on. Really do. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. I'd just be repeating myself. So, Carlton,
Carlton is definitely one of those brains I want to get to know.
get away. He's mine.
Oh, I would love to have a conversation with you.
He's mine.
Richard.
No,
Good,
get away.
good God, I wish I had Carlton's teeth.
Well, I'm sure MathPig can pass you my email.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's his name with @gmail after it. It's fucking
Super hard.
super hard. Carlton, the both of you are actually on the Pigsty Discord, so you can just tag each other. So, yeah, Carlton, thanks very much again, and yeah, kick yourself out before
But
everybody
on,
keeps talking
on
to you.
Discord, I'm Demolished Doctrine.
Alrighty, I will find you on there.
All right, brother.
All right, thanks.
Yes.
Okay,
Bye.
I'll check out your channel.
Yep. Thank you.
Catch you later.
So, yeah, Peter, meet Richard. Richard,
Pleased to
meet
meet you, Peter.
Hello, Richard.
Please.
No, I think I said
Pleased
hello
to meet
already.
you.
didn't I?
Well, I know Rory a little bit, but we'll know better in the future, I hope.
Me too, absolutely.
So I'm not sure
Yeah,
that.
and
Go ahead.
yeah. Before I forget, Rory, if you want to come on our channel, I'd be glad to have you and have a chat.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
not sure.
Maybe MathPig could send me the link to your channel.
Yeah, I'll do all that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Is it a secret channel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nope. Gonna go for it.
All right. Congratulations.
Good.
That's
Are we,
and,
are we
and,
still
and,
on
and
the
that's
stream?
all.
Are we still live or not?
No, we're live, Rory. Don't be
We
saying
are. Okay.
anything mad.
It's all right. I was just going to throw out a shield to a friend of mine who just hit 50,000 subs.
Well done for him.
I mean, amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I won't mention it.
No need for that. Richard, you jumped in. You were very, very excited when you came in like a little child on Christmas morning that had just eaten an entire selection box. I think you may have something to say. Would you like to say anything?
I would. Thank you. I'm just not sure how well my experience relates to what this conversation has been, because everything that I'm talking about happened to me when I was quite lucid and conscious and self-aware and aware of my surroundings. So I'm not sure how well it fits.
What would you like to give Peter?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, my experience was what I would call a waking dream, for lack of a better term. It was like being in a dream, and I wasn't in control of the situation. I was just experiencing it, but I wasn't asleep when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really call it. Like you guys have been talking about mental stresses, life stresses causing disconnects. But actually my life was probably as good as it ever was when this happened for me. So I don't know.
Richard would be someone who
Well,
Richard would be someone who would believe in ancient aliens. If I could just, again, I'm trying to shorten everything down to give Peter a rough synopsis of your belief system.
mm-hmm.
And again, we'll do the whole finger, hands and miming thing. If I'm wrong, shout me out, man. And don't laugh at me, you big agent. The symbol that you were seeing, Peter, is actually what heaven looks like from Earth. It is a spaceship with multiple spaceships from Earth. That is the view that you would see. God is an alien. It has happened multiple times before, and it is due to happen again. And that'll give you just a teaser. We'll wait till you interview him.
Although, Peter, I liked your story.
Yeah. Well, it happened. I mean, it's nothing that I'm particularly proud of.
Right.
As a matter of fact, because I was driving a truck, I pretty much broke the speed limit for within a period of 24 hours all the time, because when I got back, I found that I have been driving at top speed, which would be 40 kilometers faster than I'm allowed.
Right.
So I still have, so we have a tachograph, which had at that time had a paper disc, and I still have that disc. I took it out and I replaced it with an older disc and forged the date, so that if I was to be pulled over, I wouldn't get a ticket, and more important, my boss wouldn't see it, because it would have gotten me fired.
Yeah, that shit gets you fucked over here as well. Your tachograph, you have to watch that in your disc. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, I'm just glad that as far as we know, you didn't get hurt, and neither did anyone else. That's the good news.
See, and that's the problem, because I do not know that for sure, because when I got back, I had damage on the truck, on the front bumper. I think I just might have hit some cones at the side of the road where there was construction, but I'm not sure.
Oh, wow, that's got to lay heavy on you. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to tell anyone, and it took me a couple of years to come forward with the story to someone to find an explanation. It still doesn't bring back the memory of that particular day. I don't see that there's any possibility in bringing that back, and I'm not even sure if I want to know.
Right.
Because if I hit something, I'm not sure if I actually want to know what I hit.
Well, I don't know that this is any consolation for you, but I thought for years I had not attended my mother's funeral. Now, I thought that for about 15 years. But then I went to visit my sister who lived close to where our mother was buried. And I asked her if she would take me to where mother was buried. And she said, why don't you just go on your own? I said, because I don't know where it is. And she said, well, it's right down blah, blah, blah. And I said, where's that? And she said, don't you remember? And it wasn't until she started describing it and some of the occurrences that happened during that day that I realized that I had actually been there.
Well, it could
But
have
I
been
still
the
could not
trauma
remember the funeral.
Well, it could be the trauma that you blocked it out.
It was traumatic. That's right.
Yeah. So, but it's a little bit difficult for me to make an assessment. So, do you want to tell about what happened? Or
For my religious conversion, certainly.
I'll do. Now, Richard, just before we go into this, are you doing the short 20-minute version, or do you need me to step in and
You
do the
stop
2-minute
that.
version?
It'll be whatever it is, man. It'll be whatever it is.
No, that's fine. I'm totally.
I try to keep it as short and concise as possible. How long that will take, I don't know, and it depends on your thoughts and what you require of me and my trying to fulfill
Well,
that.
I did it in 4 minutes the other night, and you said that was very good. So, you know.
I said it was very good from your perspective and from what you've experienced of me.
Oh, so basically
it
I
was
was
good,
wrong.
but
Okay,
was it?
Go on.
I wouldn't have told it the same way at all. Okay, so I think that if I am presented with the problem of finding human beings on an Earth because we became space travelers, and I was because of that faced with the moral dilemma of leaving them alone or giving them information that could benefit them, I think what I would do is write a Bible. Because I think it's a perfectly moral thing to do in that situation. What was that?
I said, good for you.
Right. So I think that's what was done. Now, I will leave alone the idea of panspermia, directed panspermia, and or evolution and or special creation. I don't even want to hit that, at this part of the conversation. But the view that I have of the spiritual texts actually justifies all of them as one thing, expressed differently by societal norms and value systems in such a way that they are simultaneously cryptic and prophetic in nature, but would be interpreted by the events themselves. And I get that from a waking dream in 2012, where David and Goliath was transformed into the near stellar objects, where applying the story of David and Goliath to the first 5 planets, 4 major moons over Jupiter, the sun, and the 2 asteroid belts results in the signs of end times, quite literally.
That was really good. We did an entire series on it. It was 10.5 hours long. So considering what he just... Yeah, look.
Well, there was something very funny I saw on YouTube today. Apparently, the White House published a photograph of the new Space Force.
There's a Space Force.
And someone said, why are they all in camouflage dress? I thought that was very funny.
I just think it's funny that every time someone says Space Force, it sounds very much like me, like Spaceballs.
But I mean, surely they should be in black or blue uniforms. You know, you don't have camouflage uniforms.
It
A
should be
space-
black.
Surely.
It should just be black.
MathPig,
Go on ahead, Peter.
MathPig, do you know Artemis brain sample?
Yes, I know. I haven't had. I've had more interactions with you than I have with Artemis. I know he's your co-host, and I really appreciate his sense of humor and
Yeah.
his style.
Yeah. So going back to his sense of humor. I did a Photoshop of him, and I made him into Yoda. So every time I hear Space Force, what I see is Artemis brain sample as Yoda with his lightsaber. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, man. Whenever you can get to that point where you can make fun of people, like, you know, there's videos out there of me and Richard discussing horse masturbation. Someone snippeted that. Thank you very much, Watchtower Watcher in the chat. You know, and personally,
It's not embarrassing. It's just nature.
It's just-
We're embarrassed by it. That's
in
our
the video
choice.
as well. But anyway, there's another one I made of Richard with Jim from Master Sergeant Jim from the Atheist Age. There was another one I made of them discussing. That was quite funny.
We were discussing munitions, but it sounded sexual if you took it wrong.
And especially if you soundbite it into, there's an explosion of a hole and it was 9 inches wide and double penetration all in a row. It was very funny.
see, and the only thing I remember from school is what my history teacher taught me, and that was one sentence, and that was a dirty mind is a joy forever, and that's become my life motto.
There's worse ones.
There's something sexual. There's something sexual to find in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I'm a big child. Sue me.
Peter, you should go and watch what Lucy Luxor's live stream was earlier. She got sour balls and she put multiple ones in her mouth, mentioned numbers, mentioned this, that, and the other. And I don't know what was on them, but her tongue started to bleed, and then she did a full screen of her tongue. And yeah, between the sound bites and the visual aids, I'm gonna have a very good fun making a video tomorrow to put pictures of her.
Terrible.
It's gonna. Oh, she brought it on herself. She was like, "Oh yes, I've got 2 balls in my mouth, and I'm gonna put one in each cheek." Like, how could you not sound bite things like that?
Yeah.
Well, she is from Somerset.
What?
What do you expect from Somerset?
Yeah, no, we all love Lucy. Lucy's actually
What?
going to be on tomorrow for an interview with Lucy at 10 p.m. UK. She is not part of the atheistic community whatsoever. And Richard, next weekend, you need to get
Yes.
yourself a makeup palette, an eyebrow palette, before next
Right.
weekend.
I'll be sure to do that.
Yeah, next Friday or Saturday or so, we're doing the live palette bingo. Because Peter, she's not part of the community, but she is part of the community, as in she hangs about with some of us mad ones, but she doesn't get involved in it. She came on me and Richard's show on Thursday and helped us read the Book of Enoch. And because she's a makeup show and she's done palette bingo, which is you get an eyebrow palette with multiple colours and randomly pick 5 of them and then paint yourself with them. Me and Richard have agreed to do that on screen, and she has told us we have to do it live, Richard. She just told me tonight that we have to do it live. So,
That's fine.
yeah, I know you're grand with it. I have an ugly
Okay.
baldy head. So that's going to be absolutely hilarious. Me and Richard are going to end up looking like fucking circus clowns.
I'm doing it military camouflage, just in the wrong colors.
No, but my woman's got a rainbow palette
Well,
for me.
it
A rainbow palette.
MathPig,
Every
it
colour
can
of the
get
rainbow.
worse. It can get worse than what I did with Artemis brain sample. We made a music video with Hitler.
Well, on that there note, we will end this stream. Sammy Shock.
It's on YouTube. We still have to make something of that channel, but we do have something planned. So whenever we have time, we'll get to that. It's going to be just nonsense.
If you don't mind, Peter, I'd have a question for you.
Go ahead.
How would a person know the difference between if they lost the experience after the experience, or if they lost the experience during the experience? Because
many
when my
experiences
mind
you
blocked
have.
out my mother's funeral, no one said anything at the funeral, or no one recalled that I was spacey or disconnected,
I, I
or
had
that I
I had the
was
same. I had I had the same. I had to drive to a factory to pick up stuff and to deliver stuff.
right,
No one, and I was afraid because the next week I had to go back to
right,
drive the exact same route and go back to the exact same people. I I went to that factory. I unloaded the truck. I loaded it up with the stuff that I needed to take back. Then I went to a restaurant where I ate something. From there, I drove back a few miles to the hotel where I was supposed to spend the night.
right,
And no one ever mentioned that I was off some way.
right.
Uh,
So what I think
so
because
to
of
the
that is,
people,
go
Well, can
ahead.
I just say something before
yeah,
you
to,
finish
to
your wee bit,
everyone
Richard?
else, I seemed completely normal.
No, I
I
know.
What it,
drove a truck
but
from
what if you
from
were?
Switzerland back to Holland.
But what I'm saying is, what if you were completely normal? You just can't remember it.
That's what I was just about to say, because I've had that
Yes,
experience where I do actually remember it. I've been in the car driving the long distance between my girlfriend's house and mine, which is close to 2 hours, and in the middle of a conversation, I've stopped to her and asked her where we are. And she
Right,
shit herself and was like, "What do you mean
yeah,
where we are?" And I'm like, "I'm not actually sure where we're." "Oh no, it's fine. There's a red barn. I know exactly where we are. We're outside Moneymore," because my
sure,
body just did it.
right.
I think that's what
yes.
Richard's trying to put across. But I personally remember that.
My
Yeah,
body,
there are a lot of things you can do. There are a lot of things you can do without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
Right.
once you do it long enough.
And that's how I see how this happens. You just go in on automatic and you deal
But
with the everyday stuff that you need to do,
but if you were just on
and still your mind,
autopilot, if you were just on
yeah, but your
autopilot, you
mind is
Right, Richard, you
yeah,
say
your
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 thing and then
mind
let
is
Peter think.
occupied with something completely different while you're
right,
still being able to do what you need to do.
That's exactly Peter it. Yeah, I was having the entire conversation with my woman and eating a bag of crisps and having a drink and just not paying attention. And I've done that journey 2, 3 times a week for 4 years. And as long as it is, your body
Yeah,
just remembers.
yeah. So the route that I was on, I drove that every week, sometimes twice a week.
Exactly, man. Yeah.
So I knew pretty much every rock, every parking space. I knew everything along that route.
I've even drove that route on nights home when it's pitch dark and there's nobody on the road, and I've deliberately, well, I'm not going to say that I broke the speed limit, but I've had a lot of fun on that road on the way home and left foot braking and things like that. So I know that road like the back of my
Yeah,
hand, as they say. So no matter what happened, even if you were in the zoned out mode, you could still, because it's happened so
yeah.
many times.
but I think you
And
guys are describing
the
two
way it
different
was
things.
explained.
Sorry, Richard, you say your wee bit and then Peter can come back.
I said I think you guys are describing two different things. We've all experienced something that doesn't interest us that we've done 1,000 times, and had a mental disconnect where we were concentrating on something else. But in the middle of that concentrating on something else, you wouldn't have a conversation with someone. You wouldn't be ordering food. That would be the thing you were doing.
Well,
So,
I've done that journey a lot, and if
right,
I'm
that's what I'm saying.
yes, and I've been in the car and I've had that conversation with my woman. But the reason I say that and it stands out and I mention it is because of the fact that it made her, and she was all what the fuck and all that happened. In all that
Right,
time that I've done that, I cannot guarantee that I was just listening to the radio and zoned out, because I have fallen asleep at the steering wheel very, very close to a couple of times on that journey as well. So being that
right.
close to falling asleep, it is possible that I have zoned out and not remembered it, and I can definitely vouch for that. And that's as Peter
Yeah,
says, sleep deprivation, working so many hours, driving so many times. At that stage I was doing 600 and 700 mile a week on top of a 48-hour job a week. So
Oh,
sleep
wow.
deprivation, you know,
what was that film, American film based in New York? the guy takes this mind improving job, and he becomes
Johnny
a
Mnemonic.
billionaire on the stock market.
Oh no, that's the guy that takes the tablet
Yeah,
that makes his mind. I watched that about 2
Oh,
weeks
that.
ago.
that was. I can't. Maybe someone in chat can remind us or remind
I
me.
should remember I watched it less than 2 weeks ago.
That
They actually made a series about that where they found a wee version of the guy who worked for the
was a
FBI.
great. That was a great film, MathPig, and there was a scene in it where he completely forgets what he's done, where he's been.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes, overusage of your brain. Your body can only take so much, and you will pass out. From a personal note, within this last week, I was supposed to be in the chat with someone and told them I would be there and all, and I woke up to like 32 messages on Discord. I was like, what the fuck? My body just was like, here, you've been going for fucking too long.
I just did that to Marty Camejo on Friday, actually.
You kept them awake all night and they passed out for days? What happened?
No, I just lost track of what day it was because my sleep schedule's been so broken. Had a great conversation with Remember Sammy, but forgot about Friday.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Once you go to sleep at like 9 in the morning from the night before, you still think it's Thursday, and then you wake up and it's Friday
That's
night.
what happened to me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
But Sammy did enjoy that conversation
Yep.
very much. Yeah. A lot of respect for you. He's a little worried you're actually trying to convince... he's a little worried you're nearly starting to convince him.
Well, that would result in happiness, love, forgiveness. So I don't worry about someone becoming convinced.
But
Yeah, and you think it's
I'd
bad,
like to
and you think it's
Richard,
bad for you?
I'd like to go back to your story. What happened to you?
Sorry, Peter. Go on ahead. This
You
is the
said-
Tangent Channel.
Yeah, you said it was a dream. You were asleep, but you were awake.
No, I was
Can
not
you
asleep
describe
at
it a little
all.
bit better?
It was a waking
Sure.
dream.
I was awake and I had like a dream sequence, like I was at a movie theater, and I was watching a movie, but I was not at a movie theater. I was sitting on a friend's couch, and I had just read for the first time in my life, I read the story from the Bible, David and Goliath. In fact, it was the first story I'd read from the Bible at all. I did not know these things, and the movie translated the story into reality and actual plausible scientific series of events,
Okay.
which I was unaware of the
So-
chemistry and physics of those stellar bodies.
But there also might be a perfectly reasonable explanation for that.
There is
but,
one.
So you were in the room with other people,
No,
and you saw things. Did they see the same things?
no, of course not.
But there were other people present.
No,
There weren't.
no, there weren't. I was in a room by myself.
He said
I
he
was in the
his
living
friend's
room, and the
house.
little old lady was cooking dinner for me. I was working on her truck.
Okay.
I thought you said you were in your friend's house sitting on a sofa.
That's what I said, yes.
Yes.
But so what exactly is your claim then? Do you think it actually happened, or do you think it was just your mind playing tricks?
Well, I can't say it was my mind because it taught me things that I didn't know. So that's the problem with it
Like
being
what?
my mind. Hold on, let me finish answering your question. As far as it already having happened, I know that it hasn't, because part of it is the planet Mercury being knocked off of its orbit and colliding with moons over Jupiter, and Jupiter becoming ignited, and none of that has happened. So I know it didn't happen in the past.
No, because if that would have happened, it would have affected Earth's orbit, and we all would know.
In saying
that
that,
it had
Richard,
happened.
in saying that, Peter, halfway through our first series, we have downloaded Universe Sandbox, and we are intending to input what Richard thinks, but that is the first thing that I brought up as well, that the time it takes Mercury to reach Jupiter, we'd be fucked before then. and yeah, we're going to input that into an actual simulation of the galaxy to see what happens when you knock Mercury off its path. But I am in agreement with you, and me and Richard have been over this before, so that's what we did to solve the problem. We downloaded a universe simulator, and whenever we figure out how to fucking use the thing, we're going to put in what Richard says, and we're going to see what happens.
If it works.
When will it be?
I have no idea.
We don't know.
The only thing that I can think of. Have you heard of the Dutch Jesus, Richard?
I don't know what that meant. I'm sorry.
So we have a guy here in Holland who claims to be Jesus.
Okay.
Is he
wrote a new Bible.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because it seems that we are not made of atoms. We are made of spaceships. Which would be somewhat in line with your story.
Ooh, that was a hard cut.
Well, I only got the brief summary of.
Yeah, I give him a real
things,
brief summary, man. We've only been going. You've only been in for 30 minutes.
That was something that came to mind. So I'm still in the process.
I understand it's absolutely true that there are microbiological machines that make up cells, and cells make up people. And if you wanted to look at it that way, I could kind of see it, but I wouldn't call them spaceships.
Yes.
Are you on Twitter by any chance?
Richard?
Yeah.
On
Richard Curtis M2.
He's not great on Twitter.
I should get you in touch. I should get you in touch with him. I'm
not
really
sure I
cool
want to have that
drawings
conversation with him. Poor man.
Is he
has national TV here in Holland, and so he's been on Twitter. I promised him that I would mirror his website because he's getting on in life, and he wants someone to preserve it. And I told him I'd preserve it. But when he sent me everything, all of the links inside the website go to his website. So I have to rebuild the entire website with a lot of pages and even more pictures and drawings that remind me of preschool.
Oh boy!
But
I would show you one of my drawings. I have a drawing from the Bible I'm working on right now that I would show you, but I don't know if it's going to be comparable to his work.
That looks like the Stargate.
No. Yes, that was exactly what came to mind.
Is it split into 9?
This is a literal translation of chapter 21 of the Book of Revelation.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Is the outer circumference sections divisible by 9?
No, everything's 12 sections.
The center of it looks a little bit like my avatar.
So divisible by 3, which is 3
does a bit, doesn't it, Rory?
3
it's the 12 stones, the 12 apostles, the 12 tribes, and all the symbology, how they line up with astrology, and why that describes a certain calendar. It's actually a calendar.
See, Richard, this is why I have you as my co-host, because every time I talk to you, you just blow my fucking mind, and I just want to know more.
Well, there's just so much to tell you that's happened to me since 2012.
And saying that, Peter, just to let you know, Richard will figure out eventually how to send you his 59,000 word paper that covers all of his information. He actually sat down and wrote a 59,000 paper.
Okay, so here you got heaven arriving, right? So
You're a wee bit close, Richard.
You have the 4 beasts around God's throne. You have the face of a lion, right? Then the face of a calf. Then you have the face of a man and the face of an eagle.
How'd you make that out?
It's in the book.
Well, a lion and an eagle.
It's in the book. It's the 4 corners of the zodiac. It's Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Achaia.
Well, I'm Taurus, by the way.
I'm a Leo.
Oh, me too, bro.
I'm a Leo.
You're a Leo.
And me.
Are you a
Tribe
Leo?
of Judah.
As well.
Peter, what?
Leo's tribe of Judah. Taurus, tribe of Reuben.
Are you August, Peter?
Sorry?
You said you are a Leo. Is your birthday August?
No, I'm a Taurus.
Oh, you're a Taurus. So I'm the
A Taurus.
Everybody here's a Taurus but me.
Yeah.
There you have it.
That's why you're stuffed.
You're stuck here with three bullheaded people.
Well, what does from an astrological point of view? Can anyone do a quick wiki search? What does Leo mean? I think it's it's generally good, and then
Leo the lion is they're gonna describe the aspects of a lion basically.
Strong leadership, stand out there, and all the rest.
All those things, yes.
All those things. My personal name, which you know, Richard, if you look it up,
Yes.
means crowned and leader as well,
Yes, it does.
which is quite a coincidence. Aren't I fantastic? Everybody bow down before
But
me.
is your
and worship
big toe
Hail
bigger than the
MathPig.
rest of them? That's the real question.
Pardon?
Is your big toe the biggest of them, the longest of them?
It's definitely got the most hairs on it, which comes from my mother's side of the family. I have a wild,
That doesn't
big,
count.
wild hairy left toe. My big toe.
I
is my
have to
left
look.
foot. Very hairy.
But I thought it was time for a baseball cap again.
Oh, nice. What does this one read? This one reads.
Richard, I'm a little bit curious. So you mentioned the faces. Where did the faces come from?
I guess I don't understand your question. It's both in the text and in the constellations.
Well, you mentioned the bull,
Yes.
the eagle, the
Yes.
man, and the lamb.
Lion.
Okay, the lamb.
No
The lion.
lamb.
Okay,
Lion. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll pitch in with the eagle.
Yeah, look at that. He sent me that picture the other day. How fucking cool is that?
Absolutely amazing.
Right?
Were
now,
you
I'm not-
working at a sanctuary?
Peter, tell them. What
No,
you're
no,
doing.
no. A friend of mine owns a raptor center.
That's crazy.
So
yeah.
he flies these birds every day when the weather is okay.
Yeah.
The birds are free to fly. He goes to a park in a city nearby, and he lets people handle them as well.
Nice.
And it's absolutely amazing what he can do with these birds. And it's proof that an American eagle likes me better than Trump. I've seen the video of the eagle in Trump's office. That hasn't happened to me yet.
Well, when my daughter first arrived in New York, I mean, only like a week or two later, an eagle landed right next to her. She was amazed. It was a sign.
Well, if you look closely at the picture, the eagle, before it landed on my arm, came past me, and it lost a feather, which is stuck in my sunglasses, which I only noticed later.
Yeah, I see it.
But it's amazing. It's an amazing animal. I mean, when you see it coming towards you, that is
Scary.
That is yeah. The first time, yeah, that's actually really scary.
It's got to be pretty intimidating to see a bird that big flying toward you. What's the wingspan on that
Yeah.
one you held?
It's wider than I when I spread my arms, I think.
Yeah, it's got to be 5 foot, 6 foot, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, close to that.
Wow. Amazing. What a privilege.
Yeah.
God bless America.
Yeah, and so I have to thank another YouTuber, Johnny Drive-By, because he asked me to do a short video, and I told him, wouldn't it be cool if I do that video and I have a bald eagle taking off from my arm, then I do the short talk that you want me to do, and then have the eagle come back and land on my arm again. So that's what we're training for, and we've been training for a while.
That's gets strange because Johnny Drive-By actually texted me the other day. I think it was under one of your comments or one of my videos, and he has in one of his videos an Irish pirate, and he can't get the accent right, and he asked me to voice coach him.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
That's correct.
Can you do me a favor and be your most Irish pirate that you can? I was like, email me, just email me.
Yeah. Well, Johnny's great. We've been friends for quite a while. He's one of my favorite people, I have to say.
Well,
and everyone who isn't subscribed to his channel should absolutely do so.
Well, I have a lot of respect for yourself, Peter, and the fact that you said that Johnny Drive-By has just bumped up the list of things that I have to do. So, yeah, appreciate anyone who can vouch for someone, and yeah, we should all help each other. I really just to bring back to that. If Johnny's good at videos, if Peter's good at this, if anybody's good at this, what I was talking about earlier, Peter, and we tangent off onto something else when we were talking about helping other people, was I'm hoping with the website to have something like a notice board, and if anyone can just put aside an hour of their time a week, with like a leave a penny, take a penny, and a wee notice board, and you can just put up and go, look, I have an hour, I'm good at Discord. I have an hour, I'm good at guitar. I'm an hour, I'm good at this. You know, and just anyone willing to help someone else for an hour of your time a week, sort of like a, as I say, leave a penny, take a penny.
That's how we should be, don't you think?
That would be beautiful. If all of us gave of our excess, imagine what a world we would have.
Yeah.
Imagine, and saying that, man, with the fact that our community is worldwide, like we've people in the chat, like remember Sammy Jenkins from Australia, we've got Rory, like myself, who's from the UK, Eases and Works, who does the artwork for the channel, with the exception of the borders. Now the head borders were made by Geo Sam. Thank you, Geo, as well. I don't shout you out that much, sorry, I do apologise, but you know, we all help each other out, and we cover from California right across to Australia, so everybody should have an hour of their time they can dedicate to somebody. It could be 9 in the morning for you when you're free, and 3 in the afternoon for someone else when they're free, but an hour a week, it's not that hard. We all work generally at least 35, except Rory, because he's retired because he's old.
I'm semi-retired. I barely work.
I retired last year.
Okay, so not only
and I have less time than when I worked, but I'm getting there.
So, MathPig, you're surrounded by aged gentlemen.
Aged bulls.
Aged bulls.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes.
Shout out to MathPig's granny. MathPig's granny was 84 this week, and my mother and my auntie took her away for the 3 days. And when I rang her at 8:30 to wish her a happy birthday after I got all my stuff done and finished work and all that sort of stuff, they were just leaving the pub, and my granny had all of a half a pint, and she was all giddy and everything, couldn't talk to me, she couldn't even answer. She answered.
What's her name, MathPig?
MathPig's granny.
That's her name.
Okay, happy birthday, MathPig.
But it was
happy birthday, MathPig's granny.
She had
still kicking them down and causing trouble. Good for her.
She had answered the phone, and all I could hear in the background was my mother going, well, what do you think you're going to do? Bloody talk to him. And it was like, right, okay. She didn't even realise that she'd answered the phone and didn't know what to do. I talked to her for all of 3 minutes just to wish her a happy birthday and laugh at her, because I think that's probably the first half pint she'd had in about 10 years. And she's frail, my granny. There could be nothing till her, like, bag of spuds would weigh more. Oh, so funny. But yeah, shout out to MathPig's granny. Well, I'm going to round this all up, and if Richard wants to keep a conversation.
But I agree with you, MathPig, that we should support each other. I mean, it's pretty much one of the things that I do, besides having the channel that I have.
Yeah.
I make stuff for other people.
Yeah.
Hey, MathPig, if you want to open up team share and make me able to shut down this stream and leave it on, I would do that.
What do you mean?
If you wanted to open up team share, oh, I'm sorry, I moved away from the mic. I forgot I moved it. If you wanted to open up team share and make me able to shut down this stream, and I could be wrong, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I the only one who still has energy?
No, I have energy and I am willing
We
to
all have
join.
energy.
I have energy and I'm willing to join, and if you host something I may join in, but I want to have the ability to leave without dropping everyone else in it.
That's why I said, why don't you leave this stream on and I'll shut it off.
No. Well, what we can do is we can just shut this down. You can start another one and we'll jump to your
I can't
channel.
afford it right now. I've made too many promises.
Yeah, it won't be embarrassing, MathPig, we promise you.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, but I will. Peter might want to host us.
What do you think, Peter?
Well, no, so it's 4 o'clock here already. I do have a show tomorrow, so
Well, we'll just have to
I
call
need
it
to
a
be
night.
I need to be awake when I have a show tomorrow.
I think you should be.
I'm going to have a talk with Jesus, so
You should be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
I think you should be known as Peter the Eagle.
Peter the Eagle. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
well,
pretty good.
well, yeah.
Here,
The
just-
fun
can
fact
I ask-
is
can I ask a question?
that
Sorry.
that eagle's name is Tucker, and my last name is DeTucker, which
Huh.
is kind of cool.
Can I just say, would this one guy be willing to host on his channel? Just to ask into the chat, would this one guy be willing to host into his channel? Testing.
Testing this one guy. I think Rory and Peter are falling out anyway, even if I do have energy.
No, not at all. No, I was just about to say, does anybody remember Eddie the Eagle?
Eddie the Eagle.
Eddie the Eagle, the UK
Eddie the Eagle,
peer.
Well, Richard, I'll jump
the
over to your channel.
famous British guy who changed the rules for the
Oh.
Olympics.
Oh, he was a distance jumper.
He was the snow or the. There you go. Tug says he'll host. Tug, we'll just wait until you get set up, and if you can post a link. If you
That would be great.
let me see. Yes, if you send me the link for the StreamYard in the DM, and I will pass it on to everyone. And if you want to post the link to the YouTube for everyone to watch in the live chat here, and when you've done both of that, I'll end this, and we can then move over to Tug stream.
Peter, I have a question for Jesus.
Yeah. Go
Is
ahead.
Jill here?
If he's willing to answer
Which one?
Is Jill here?
Which one? The one that I have on tomorrow, or the one in Holland?
Here,
The one that you have on.
Peter, do you know there's one in Siberia as well?
Yeah, I was aware. There's one in Mexico too.
So I have to be a little bit more specific. So the guy that we're going to have on tomorrow is a young guy. He's 18 years old. He's from South Africa. I do make a little bit of fun because they're calling him Jesus.
Right.
I don't. When he comes on tomorrow, that'll be different. I will treat him with the respect that he deserves. I think.
He deserves respect as a human being either way, you know?
Yeah. So.
But I have a real question for him.
Well, shoot.
My understanding of the Bible leads me to believe that the actual Christ will be able to answer the seven thunders.
That's another thing. You see, this is just Richard's just creating content. More questions.
Well,
Richard.
no, that's good. I mean, are you talking about the
Well, so Richard,
seven
is that
fields?
part of Revelation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought you were.
It's the
think
seven
that-
thunders that
and
aren't
you know-
written down, but the real Jesus would be able to answer the seven thunders.
And you know the
Well,
pretty
wasn't
much common consensus of Revelation is that it was written by someone who had some brain altering chemicals?
That would be a good theory, but
Well,
that would mean it would be different from every text everywhere, and it's not.
Well, I was just about to say, wasn't that Waco, Texas?
No, that was a different thing, I think.
Well, it was all about the 7 seals.
Well, a lot of people have referred to the Bible to justify their actions, thoughts, and feelings, even wars and even mass murder, but that doesn't mean that's what the book says or what it's even talking about. It just means there's crazy people out there who's read it.
Well, I have to agree with you on that one.
Okay.
Well, especially concerning Waco, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but can you enlighten me a little bit, because I've
what?
read Revelation, but that was a long time ago.
Okay, so
what is it?
Richard,
So
before you
Peter's-
start that, Richard, there's been a StreamYard link posted in the chat, in the actual live chat of the YouTube. Peter, if you can see it, Rory, if you can see it, if all of us can click that.
I
then-
can't see it. I have no live chat here.
Okay, I'll copy it and paste it to you, Richard, alright?
Paste it to me where? Put it in the email so it's easy to find. I don't have to do more logging in for me, brother, please.
Okay. You're an awful hassle, but okay.
I know.
I'll leave it to you now. Right. Well,
If he wasn't my brother, he wouldn't do this for me,
I'm
but I
gonna
appreciate
end
it.
all this. Peter, I'll tweet the link to you, and Rory, I will Discord. Are you going to bed, Peter?
I already have it open. I
Perfect.
already have it open in
You can
a-
talk to
in
me,
another
but
tab.
is it-
Okay.